Fleet Commander stood tall on the bridge of his massive warship, the Eternal Blade. His scaled skin reflected the dim blue lights of the control panels around him. He had conquered 12 planets in his career. He had never failed. His yellow eyes watched the beautiful blue planet growing larger on the main viewing screen. It looked peaceful. It looked weak. It looked like an easy victory. Sub-Commander walked up behind him, holding a data tablet in his four-fingered hands. Was younger than, eager to prove himself, and always ready with information. He bowed his head slightly before speaking. Commander, we have finished scanning the target world. Our probes have gathered all the information we need. Did not turn around. He kept his eyes on the blue planet. Tell me about them. Tell me about these creatures we are about to conquer. Looked at his tablet and began reading. The planet has approximately 8 billion inhabitants. They call themselves humans. They are a young species, Commander. They have only recently developed the technology to travel within their own solar system. They have sent small machines to nearby planets, but they have not yet traveled to other stars. Primitive, said with satisfaction, just as I expected. Yes, Commander. Their weapons are also primitive compared to ours. They use chemical propellants to fire metal projectiles. They have explosive devices, but nothing that can threaten our shields. Their aircraft are slow and clumsy. Their naval vessels float on water like toys. Finally turned to face his second-in-command. A cold smile spread across his reptilian face. This will be our easiest conquest yet. The Dominion High Council will be pleased. This planet has abundant resources, water, minerals, fertile land. It will make an excellent addition to our empire. What shall we call it once it belongs to us, Commander? Province 742, replied without hesitation. By this time tomorrow, the humans will kneel before the Dominion flag, begin the invasion sequence, deploy the first wave to their largest military installations. I want their leaders captured and their weapons destroyed before sunset. Bowed and hurried to relay the orders. Within minutes, the massive invasion fleet came to life. Hundreds of drop pods launched from the bellies of the warships, streaking through the darkness of space toward the blue planet below. Each pod carried a squad of Dominion soldiers, armed with plasma rifles and armored in battle suits that could stop any human weapon. Watched the drop pods fall toward Earth like a rain of fire. He felt pride swelling in his chest. Another world would soon belong to the Dominion. Another species would learn to serve their masters. This was the natural order of things. The strong ruled the weak. The advanced conquered the primitive. It had always been this way. Far below, on the surface of Earth, the people had no idea what was coming. Ben Cooper was a simple farmer in rural Kansas. He had lived on his family's land for 43 years. He knew every inch of his fields, every tree on his property, every sound that the wind made as it blew across the wheat. That morning, he was fixing his old tractor when he noticed something strange in the sky. At first, he thought they were shooting stars, bright streaks of light cutting across the blue morning sky, but there were too many of them, and they were moving too slow, and they were getting bigger. Ben wiped the grease from his hands and pulled out his phone. He called his neighbor, Danny Martinez, who lived about a mile down the road. "Hey Danny, you seeing this?" Ben asked, his eyes still fixed on the sky. Danny's voice came through the phone, tense and alert. "I see it, Ben. Looks like the whole sky is falling. What do you think it is?" "I don't know. Military exercise maybe, but I didn't hear anything about it on the news." "That ain't no military exercise," Danny said. "I was in the Army for 20 years. I know what military exercises look like. This is something else." The streaks of light were closer now. Ben could see that they were objects, metallic pods of some kind, falling toward the earth with trails of fire behind them. His heart began to beat faster. "Danny, I think we might have a problem." "Get your family to the basement, Ben. Right now. I'm getting my guns." Ben ran toward his farmhouse, shouting for his wife and children. The pods were landing now, hitting the ground with tremendous impacts that shook the earth beneath his feet. He could see them in the distance, scattered across the fields and hills. Dark shapes were emerging from the pods, shapes that were definitely not human. Across the world, the same scene was playing out in thousands of locations. The Dominion invasion force landed in every country, on every continent. They targeted military bases, government buildings, power plants, and communication centers. They expected the humans to panic. They expected chaos and fear. They expected quick surrender. They did not expect what actually happened. In Texas, a group of Dominion soldiers landed near a small town called. They emerged from their pods with weapons raised, ready to round up the terrified locals. Instead, they found themselves facing a crowd of armed civilians who had grabbed every gun they owned and formed a defensive line in the middle of Main Street. "What in the hell are those things?" shouted old Pete Harrison, aiming his hunting rifle at the approaching aliens. "Don't matter what they are," replied his grandson Rick, holding a shotgun. "They ain't welcome here." The Dominion soldiers were confused. According to their intelligence, humans were supposed to flee when faced with superior force. These humans were not fleeing. They were standing their ground, weapons pointed directly at the invaders. The squad leader, a veteran of 6 planetary conquests, activated his translator and spoke. "Lay down your weapons. Surrender peacefully and you will not be harmed. Resistance is futile." Pete Harrison spat on the ground. "Son, you picked the wrong planet." The first shots were fired, and the battle for Earth began. Back on the Eternal Blade, the first reports of ground combat reached Commander. He listened with mild interest, expecting to hear of quick victories and mass surrenders. Instead, his officers reported something unexpected. "Commander, Landing Force 7 is encountering heavy resistance in the northern continent. The humans are fighting back." "Fighting back," raised an eyebrow. "With what, sticks and stones?" "With projectile weapons, Commander. Our soldiers report that the humans are using them with surprising effectiveness. We have taken casualties." Waved his hand dismissively. "Casualties are expected in any invasion. Continue the assault. These primitives will learn soon enough that they cannot stand against the Dominion." But as the hours passed, the reports grew more troubling. Landing forces were being ambushed. Human military units were responding faster than expected. And strangest of all, the humans were not surrendering. Not anywhere. Not even when they were clearly outmatched and outnumbered. Stared at the planet on his screen, and for the first time, he felt a tiny seed of doubt growing in his mind. What kind of species was this? Lieutenant Commander Amy had served in the United States Navy for 15 years. She had sailed through storms that would terrify most people. She had faced pirates and enemy submarines. She had trained for every possible combat scenario, but nothing had prepared her for this morning. She stood in the control room of her submarine, the USS Defiance, reading the orders that had just come through on the encrypted channel. 3 alien spacecraft had positioned themselves above San. The city was under attack, and her orders were simple but almost unbelievable. Engage and destroy the enemy vessels. Her weapons officer, Ensign Park, looked at her with wide eyes. "Ma'am, are we really going to attack spacecraft with torpedoes? Those things are floating in the sky. Our weapons are designed for underwater targets." Amy folded the orders and put them in her pocket. Her face was calm, but her mind was racing. Those ships have to land eventually. They have to come down to deploy troops, to resupply, to refuel. When they do, we'll be waiting. And we have more than torpedoes. We have cruise missiles. We have the element of surprise. And we have something those aliens don't have. "What's that, ma'am?" "We're fighting for our home." She turned to address her entire crew. Every sailor on the submarine was watching her, waiting for guidance, waiting for hope. These were young men and women who had signed up to serve their country. Now they were being asked to fight an enemy from the stars. Listen up, Amy said, her voice strong and steady. I know this isn't what any of us expected when we woke up this morning. Aliens are invading our planet. That sounds like something from a movie. But this is real and this is happening, and we are the United States Navy. We don't run. We don't hide. We fight. Those things up there think they can just come to our world and take whatever they want. We're going to show them how wrong they are. The crew responded with a cheer that echoed through the metal corridors of the submarine. Fear was replaced by determination. Doubt was replaced by courage. They had a mission, and they would complete it or die trying. On the ground, the Dominion invasion force was learning a hard lesson about the people of Earth. Their intelligence had described humans as primitive and weak. What they found instead was a planet full of natural warriors who had spent their entire history fighting each other. Sergeant Tony led his squad through the burning ruins of downtown Houston. The city had been hit hard in the initial attack. Buildings had collapsed. Fires burned everywhere. The streets were filled with debris and smoke. But Tony and his soldiers kept moving forward, hunting for the enemy. They had lost contact with command hours ago. The communication towers had been destroyed in the first wave of attacks, but that didn't matter. Every American soldier knew what to do when their home was invaded. They didn't need orders from generals. They needed ammunition and targets. "Movement on the left," shouted Private Lisa Monroe, dropping to one knee and raising her rifle. A group of Dominion soldiers was trying to set up a defensive position in the ruins of an office building. They had plasma weapons that could burn through concrete. They had armor that could stop most bullets. They had training from 1,000 conquests across the galaxy. But they had never faced humans before. Tony gave a quick hand signal, and his squad moved with practiced precision. They had trained together for years. They knew each other's movements without speaking. In seconds, they had flanked the alien position from 3 sides. "Open fire," Tony commanded. The aliens were caught completely off guard. They were used to enemies who ran away when outmatched. They were used to species who surrendered when faced with superior firepower. The humans did neither. The humans attacked with a fury that the Dominion soldiers had never seen before. Private Monroe's shots found gaps in the alien armor. Corporal Steve threw grenades that scattered the enemy formation. Tony himself charged forward with his combat knife when his rifle jammed, tackling an alien soldier twice his size and fighting hand to hand until the creature stopped moving. When the battle was over, 8 alien soldiers lay dead in the ruins. Tony's squad had lost 2 of their own. He knelt beside the bodies of his fallen comrades, saying a silent prayer before leading the survivors onward to find more enemies. This scene was repeated across the entire planet. In every country, on every continent, humans fought back against the invasion with everything they had. They used military weapons and hunting rifles. They used improvised explosives and kitchen knives. They fought in organized units and in desperate individual stands. In Moscow, Russian soldiers ambushed a Dominion convoy using tactics developed during World War II. In Beijing, Chinese special forces launched nighttime raids that wiped out an entire alien landing zone. In London, ordinary citizens formed militias and defended their neighborhood street by street. The aliens had expected to face one enemy, the military forces of various nations. Instead, they faced the entire human population, 8 billion people who refused to give up. On the command ship, Sub-Commander delivered report after report to Commander. Each one was worse than the last. "Sir, we have lost contact with Landing Force 7 completely. They are presumed destroyed." Paced across the bridge, his earlier confidence gone. How is this possible? Those were veteran soldiers. They had superior weapons, superior armor, superior training. "The humans are not fighting like any species we have encountered before, Commander. They do not retreat when outmatched. They do not surrender when surrounded. They continue fighting even when victory is impossible." "That makes no sense," growled. What rational creature fights when it cannot win? I do not think rationality is their primary motivation, sir. Another officer approached with a damage report. Commander, Landing Force 12 has suffered 50% casualties. The survivors are requesting permission to withdraw. Said immediately, tell them to hold their position. Reinforcements will arrive soon. Sir, I do not think they will survive long enough for reinforcements to arrive. The humans are attacking them from all directions. They are using the terrain, the buildings, even the underground tunnels. Our soldiers cannot establish a secure perimeter. Slammed his fist against a control panel. Increase orbital bombardment, destroy their cities, break their will to resist. We have been bombing for 6 hours, Commander. They keep fighting. We destroyed their communication centers and they switched to backup systems. We destroyed their power plants and they continued operations using emergency generators. We bombed their military bases and their soldiers scattered into the countryside to fight as guerrillas. Then bomb the countryside. Sir, the planet is vast. We do not have enough firepower to bomb everywhere at once. And every time we bomb a location, the humans from nearby areas become even more determined to fight. Our attacks seem to be making them angrier rather than weaker. Stood in silence for a long moment. He had conquered 12 worlds. He had faced dozens of species. None of them had fought like this. None of them had this kind of stubborn, relentless, almost suicidal determination to resist. He looked at the blue planet on the screen. It had seemed so peaceful from space, so beautiful, so easy. Now he was beginning to understand that appearances could be deceiving, and he was beginning to wonder if he had made a terrible mistake. Deep beneath the Pentagon, in a bunker designed to survive nuclear war, Admiral stood at the center of humanity's desperate defense. Screens covered every wall, showing battles from around the globe. Reports flooded in from military commanders on 6 continents. The situation was bad, but it was not hopeless. The humans were holding the line. Was 62 years old. She had gray hair cut short and eyes that had seen decades of military service. She had commanded fleets and planned operations that changed the course of history. Now she faced the greatest challenge of her life, an enemy from beyond the stars, an enemy with technology far beyond anything humanity possessed. But did not believe in impossible odds. She believed in the courage of her soldiers and the creativity of her people, and she had a plan. "What's the status on Operation Counterpunch?" she asked her aide, Captain Sam. Sam checked his tablet and reported with barely contained excitement. "All assets are in position, Admiral. We've coordinated with NATO, the Russian Military Command, and the Chinese Central Military Commission. The British, French, Indians, and Israelis are also standing by. For the first time in human history, every nuclear power on Earth is aiming at the same target." Nodded slowly. It had taken 3 days of frantic diplomacy to make this happen. Old enemies had become allies overnight. Decades of mistrust and competition had been set aside in the face of a common threat. The aliens had done something that no human leader had ever been able to do. They had united the entire world. "Have we located their command ship?" asked. "Yes, Admiral. It's the largest vessel in their fleet, positioned directly above the Atlantic Ocean. Our scientists believe it contains their leadership and main communication systems. If we can destroy or damage it, we might be able to disrupt their entire operation. Then we show them what humans do when we're cornered." She picked up a secure phone and spoke to the leaders of every major nation on Earth. Presidents and prime ministers, generals and admirals, all listening on the same call. Her voice was calm but filled with iron determination. "Ladies, and this is Admiral. The alien fleet believes they have us beaten. They believe their technology makes them invincible. They are wrong. On my command, we will launch a coordinated strike against their flagship using every nuclear weapon we can deliver. This is our counterpunch. This is how humanity fights back." Meanwhile, far above the Earth, Sub-Commander was conducting research that would change everything. He had spent the last 2 days studying human history, culture, and psychology. What he discovered filled him with a cold, creeping terror. He requested an urgent meeting with Commander. The fleet commander was in a foul mood. The invasion was not going according to plan. Casualties were mounting. Progress was slow, but he agreed to hear what had found. Commander, I have been studying the humans' history. I believe I understand why we are having such difficulty conquering them. Gestured impatiently, speak quickly, I have operations to oversee. Activated a holographic display that showed images and data from Earth's past. Sir, in the last 100 of their years alone, humans have fought 2 global wars, massive conflicts that engulfed their entire planet. The first one killed approximately 20 million of them. The second killed nearly 80 million. That is 100 million deaths in just 2 wars, Commander. Stared at the display with growing disbelief. They killed 100 million of their own kind. Why? Various reasons, sir. Political disagreements, territorial disputes, ethnic hatred, religious differences. Humans seem to find many reasons to fight each other. This is insanity. What kind of species destroys itself like this? Continued, his voice trembling slightly. It gets worse, Commander. After their second global war, humans developed weapons capable of destroying their entire planet. They call them nuclear weapons. They create explosions more powerful than anything in our arsenal, and they built thousands of them. Thousands? Why would any species build thousands of world-destroying weapons? They aimed them at each other, sir. For decades, 2 major factions pointed these weapons at one another, each ready to destroy the world rather than lose to the other side. They call this period the Cold War. Sat down heavily in his command chair. His mind struggled to process what he was hearing. They would rather destroy their own planet than surrender to each other. Yes, Commander, and that is still not the most disturbing part. There is more. Change the holographic display to show images from human entertainment. Movies, television shows, books, video games, all depicting one common theme. Sir, humans have entertainment media depicting thousands of scenarios in which aliens invade their world. They have been imagining this exact situation for over a century. They have written stories, made movies, and created games about fighting invaders from space. Every human child grows up watching these stories. They learn from birth that aliens might come someday, and that when aliens come, humans fight back. Looked at the images with a mixture of fascination and horror. Humans fighting aliens. Humans defeating aliens. Humans driving alien invaders away from their planet. It was everywhere in their culture. They have been preparing for us, said quietly. Not consciously, sir. But yes, in a way, they have been mentally and culturally preparing for an alien invasion for generations. When we arrived, we did not surprise them. We fulfilled their expectations. We made their fantasies come true. They fantasize about fighting alien invaders. They dream about it, sir. They consider it one of the ultimate tests of their species, a chance to prove themselves against a threat from the stars. And now their dream has become reality. They are not just fighting us because they have to. They are fighting us because, in some strange way, they have been waiting for this moment their entire lives. Stood up and walked to the viewing port. He stared down at the blue planet that had seemed so easy to conquer just days ago. Now he saw it differently. Now he saw it as what it truly was. A world of warriors, a world of survivors, a world of creatures who would rather die than surrender. He had made a terrible mistake coming here, but it was too late to turn back now. Or was it? Before he could speak, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Officers shouted warnings and reports. Something was happening. Commander shouted, "The humans have launched weapons, hundreds of them. They are nuclear missiles, sir. They are targeting our fleet." watched the display screens as tiny points of light rose from the planet below. Each one was a nuclear weapon, carrying enough destructive power to vaporize a city, and they were all heading toward his ships. "Activate defensive systems," he commanded, his voice steady despite his fear. "All ships prepare for impact." The battle was about to enter a new and terrible phase, and Commander was finally beginning to understand the true nature of the enemy he faced. Humans did not know how to quit, and they were willing to risk everything, including their own destruction, to win. The nuclear strike changed everything. The Dominion fleet had shields and defensive systems that could stop most weapons, but they had never faced anything like the combined nuclear arsenal of planet Earth. Over 300 missiles reached their targets. Most were destroyed by alien defenses, but enough got through. 4 Dominion warships were destroyed completely, vanishing in brilliant flashes of atomic fire. 17 more were damaged, some of them severely. The flagship, the Eternal Blade, survived but lost half its weapon systems and a quarter of its crew. For the first time in the history of the Dominion conquest fleet, they had suffered a major defeat. Commander stood on his damaged bridge, surrounded by sparking control panels and injured officers. Smoke filled the air. Warning alarms blared from every direction. He had been thrown across the room by the impact and had a deep cut on his forehead that bled green blood down his face. "Damage report," he demanded, his voice hoarse. Sub-Commander limped toward him, one arm hanging useless at his side. "We have lost 4 capital ships, Commander. The Crimson Storm, the Void Crusher, the Dark Victory, and the Silent Death. All hands lost. 17 other vessels are damaged. Our ground forces have lost all orbital support in the affected regions." "How many dead?" "At least 12,000, sir. The count is still rising." Closed his eyes. 12,000 soldiers lost in a single attack, and they had been attacked by primitives, by a species that had barely left their own planet. The shame was almost worse than the physical pain. "What are our options?" he asked. Admiral, the commander of the orbital fleet, approached with his uniform was torn and his face was covered in burns, but his voice was steady. "Sir, I recommend immediate retaliation. We should glass the entire planet from orbit. Destroy every city, every military base, every living thing. Let nothing survive." "That would defeat the purpose of conquest," replied, repeating the same objection he had given before. "The Dominion needs resources, not ashes." "With respect, Commander, if we do not destroy them now, they will destroy us. You saw what they just did. They were willing to use weapons that could have devastated their own planet. They hit themselves with nuclear fallout just to hurt us. What kind of enemy does that?" Did not answer. He knew what kind of enemy did that. A desperate enemy, a fearless enemy, an enemy with nothing to lose. 3 days into the invasion, the momentum had shifted completely. The Dominion forces that had landed on Earth were now in full retreat across multiple continents. Human military units had learned to exploit weaknesses in alien armor and tactics. Human scientists had captured alien equipment and were already figuring out how to use it against its creators. In the Pacific Ocean, Captain Johnny commanded a coalition fleet that had achieved the impossible. They had boarded and captured an alien destroyer. The ship was damaged but mostly intact, and now human engineers were swarming over it like ants on a sugar cube. Dr. Maria Santos was the lead scientist on the captured vessel. She was 45 years old, a physicist who had spent her career studying theoretical concepts that most people thought were science fiction. Now she was standing inside an actual alien spacecraft, touching technology that had crossed the stars. "This is incredible," she said, examining a power core that glowed with soft blue light. "Their weapons systems are actually less efficient than ours in many ways. They rely on brute force rather than precision. Our missiles and guns could match their plasma weapons if we had the same power source." Johnny stood beside her, still carrying his rifle even though the ship had been secured. Can we copy their technology? Better than that, we can improve it. Their engineering is advanced but not elegant. They build things that work but don't optimize them. Give us a month and we'll have ships that can match theirs. Give us a year and we'll have ships that can beat them. Johnny shook his head. You have 2 weeks, Doctor. Command wants us back in the fight as soon as possible. 2 weeks, Maria laughed, but there was determination in her eyes. Challenge accepted. On the ground, the story was the same everywhere. The aliens were being pushed back by an enemy they had completely underestimated. In Nigeria, General led a combined African force against an alien stronghold. He had spent 30 years fighting various conflicts across the continent. He knew guerrilla tactics, unconventional warfare, and how to defeat a technologically superior enemy. Within 72 hours, his forces had wiped out an entire Dominion landing zone using nothing but rifles, machetes, and creativity. In Japan, the people of Tokyo had refused to evacuate despite government orders. Armed citizens formed neighborhood defense groups. They used hunting rifles, kitchen knives, baseball bats, and anything else they could find. They fought the invaders street by street, building by building, room by room. 3 separate assault waves were repelled with tremendous casualties on both sides. But the humans held. Tokyo did not fall. In Brazil, the Amazon rainforest became a death trap for Dominion soldiers. Special forces teams appeared from the jungle like ghosts, struck with deadly precision, and vanished before the aliens could respond. The thick vegetation blocked alien sensors. The heat and humidity damaged their equipment. And the human soldiers knew every tree, every river, every hiding place in the vast green maze. The Dominion had conquered hundreds of worlds. They had defeated countless species, but they had never faced anything like humanity. They had never faced a species that refused to accept defeat. On the Eternal Blade, Commander called an emergency meeting of his senior officers. They gathered in the damaged war room, surrounded by broken screens and flickering lights. Every face showed the same thing: fear, confusion, despair. I want options, demanded. Real options. How do we break these creatures? Admiral spoke first. Total destruction remains our best choice, Commander. Yes, we will lose the resources, but we will survive. If we continue this ground war, we will lose everything. Unacceptable. What else? Another officer, Sub-Admiral, raised his hand. We could negotiate, sir. Offer them terms. Perhaps they would accept becoming a subject species if we allowed them some autonomy. You think these humans would accept being ruled by us? After everything they have done to resist, they would use any peace agreement to rebuild their strength and attack us later. Silence fell over the room. No one had any good ideas. No one could see a way forward. Finally spoke. His voice was quiet but steady. Sir, I must be honest with you. We cannot win this war, not against them. Every officer turned to stare at him, continued despite their shocked expressions. They are too many, 8 billion of them. We could bomb them for years and not kill them all. They are too stubborn. They do not surrender, they do not retreat, they do not give up. And most dangerous of all, they are learning. Every day they get better at fighting us. Every day they capture more of our technology. Every day they grow stronger while we grow weaker. He paused and looked directly at Commander. If we stay here, we will not conquer Earth. Earth will conquer us. Or worse, they will follow us back to our. And based on what I have seen, sir, they will not stop until they have destroyed everything we have. The room was silent. Everyone knew that was right, but no one wanted to admit it. No one wanted to say the words that everyone was thinking. Commander made his decision. On the 5th day of the invasion, something happened that no one on Earth expected. The alien fleet began to move, not toward the planet, away from it. The massive warships that had filled the sky with terror were turning around and heading toward the outer reaches of the solar system. In the White House bunker, President Carlos watched the satellite feeds with a mixture of hope and disbelief. He was a tall man with dark hair turning gray at the temples. He had been president for only 2 years when the aliens arrived. Now he stood at the center of the most important moment in human history. "Are they retreating?" he asked, almost afraid to believe it. "Is this real?" Admiral stood beside him, studying the data with careful eyes. She had seen too many battles to trust appearances. "It appears so, Mr. President. All enemy vessels are breaking orbit and heading away from Earth. Long-range sensors show them accelerating toward the outer planets." "Could it be a trick? Maybe they're regrouping for another attack." "Possible, sir, but their damaged ships are retreating too. If they were planning another attack, they would repair first. I believe they're leaving." The president sat down slowly, the weight of 5 days of constant crisis finally catching up with him. "We did it. We actually did it. We beat them." "Not beat, Mr. President. Survived. There's a difference. They could come back. They could send a larger fleet. We need to be ready." "Then we'll get ready. We'll build ships. We'll develop new weapons. We'll make sure that if they ever come back, we're prepared to meet them." Aboard the Eternal Blade, Commander was recording a message for the Dominion High Council. His hands trembled slightly as he spoke. This was the first time in his career that he had failed to complete a conquest. The first time he had been forced to withdraw from a target world. "This is Fleet Commander, reporting from the Sol system. I am ordering a full withdrawal from the planet designated Earth, third planet from the local star." He paused, collecting his thoughts. He had to explain what had happened. He had to make the council understand. "Our invasion force has suffered 63% casualties. We have lost 4 capital ships, 17 destroyers, and countless ground vehicles and equipment. The native species, known as humans, have proven to be beyond our ability to conquer with available forces." He took a deep breath and continued. "I am officially designating Earth as a forbidden world. No Dominion vessel should approach this system under any circumstances. The humans are not what our intelligence suggested. They are not primitive. They are not weak. They are predators of the highest order, and they do not know the meaning of surrender." Another pause. The hardest part was coming. "If we continue this war, we will eventually lose. Not because they are stronger than us, not because their technology is better, but because they will never stop fighting. They will fight until they are dead, and then their children will continue the fight. And eventually, they will become strong enough to reach our worlds. Based on what I have seen, they will not stop until they have conquered everything we have. I strongly recommend that the Dominion never return to this system." He ended the recording and sat in silence for a long moment. His career was over. He would be remembered as the commander who fled from primitives, but at least he would be alive to be remembered. Entered the bridge. "Sir, the humans are hailing us." Looked up in surprise. "What do they want?" "They are asking if we would like to negotiate." A bitter laugh escaped from his throat. Even now, even after everything, the humans were still ready to talk. They could have simply let the Dominion flee. Instead, they were reaching out, either to make peace or to demand something. "What do they say?" "Their message is simple, sir. They want to know why we invaded and whether we will return. They are offering to let us leave peacefully if we promise never to come back." Considered this for a moment. The humans were giving him an easy exit. No more fighting, no more deaths, just leave and never return. "Tell them we accept their terms. Tell them we will leave and never return." "Should I add anything else, sir? Perhaps an expression of peaceful intentions?" Shook his head. "No, the less contact we have with those creatures, the better. Just tell them we are leaving." As the Dominion fleet limped toward the edge of the solar system, humans across Earth looked up at the sky and celebrated. They had done the impossible. They had faced an enemy from the stars and forced them to retreat. Parents hugged their children. Soldiers embraced their comrades. Strangers danced in the streets. In cities that had been partially destroyed, people began cleaning up and rebuilding. In military bases around the world, commanders started planning for the future. A future where humanity was no longer alone in the universe. A future where they needed to be ready for anything. Dr. Maria Santos worked around the clock in her laboratory, studying the captured alien technology. Within a week, she had cracked the secrets of their power systems. Within a month, the first human starship was under construction. It would be called the Unity, because it was being built by every nation on Earth working together. In a small town in Kansas, farmer Ben Cooper stood on his porch with his neighbor Danny Martinez. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink. The alien ships were gone. The world was safe, for now. "Think they'll be back?" Danny asked, taking a drink from his beer bottle. Ben looked up at the stars that were beginning to appear in the darkening sky. "Maybe, maybe not, but if they do come back, we'll be ready. We always are." "You know what I keep thinking about? All those movies we watched growing up. Aliens invading Earth. We always wondered if humanity could handle something like that. Now we know." "Yeah," Ben agreed. "Now we know." Above them, the stars glittered peacefully. But the galaxy was no longer the same. Word was spreading through 1,000 alien civilizations. Stories of a small blue planet called Earth. Stories of creatures called humans who fought like demons and never, ever gave up. Some species heard these stories with fear. They added Earth to their list of places to avoid. Others heard the stories with curiosity. They wondered what kind of beings could drive back the mighty Dominion. And a very few, heard the stories with hope. Because there were other species out there who lived under Dominion rule. Species who dreamed of freedom but lacked the power to achieve it. Now they had heard of a world that had fought back and won. In the Grand Council chamber of the Dominion, the High Counselors watched commanders report with growing horror. They had ruled their corner of the galaxy for 10,000 years. They had never been seriously challenged. They had believed they were invincible. Now they knew the truth. There was a species out there that could match them, a species that might one day surpass them, a species that did not know fear. "What shall we do about this Earth?" asked the High Chancellor. "Nothing," replied the Minister of War. "We shall do nothing. We shall hope they forget about us. We shall hope they stay on their planet and never venture into the stars." But even as he spoke, he knew it was a false hope. The humans would not stay home. They would build ships. They would explore. They would expand. And when they reached the stars, nothing in the galaxy would ever be safe again. Back on Earth, a new era had begun. The age of isolation was over. Humanity had announced its presence to the universe in the most dramatic way possible. They had fought back against overwhelming odds and won. The sky was no longer a limit. It was an invitation. And humanity was ready to accept it.